The camera cuts to live television, millions watching at home, and in that split second the moment that would define a career, destroy a legacy, and create the most talked about incident in WWE history, everything changed. What you're about to hear is so shocking, so unbelievably real, that WWE tried to scrub it from existence. They deleted footage, they silenced commentators, they threatened legal action against anyone who dared speak about it. But the truth always finds a way out, and tonight, we're exposing every single detail of the night a wrestler's body betrayed them in the most catastrophic way possible on live television. Before we go any further, if you want to stay updated on the most controversial, most hidden, most explosive moments in wrestling history that the industry doesn't want you to know about, smash that subscribe button right now. We're not here to protect reputations or play it safe, we're here for the truth. And trust me, after what you're about to discover, you'll want to be part of this community that doesn't back down from the real stories. The date was one that started like any other Smackdown taping. The arena was packed, the energy was electric, and nobody, not the wrestlers, not the production team, not the millions watching at home, could have predicted that they were about to witness something that would make grown men look away from their screens. This wasn't a planned spot. This wasn't a storyline angle. This was pure, unfiltered, biological reality crashing into the carefully choreographed world of professional wrestling with devastating consequences. The wrestler in question had been feeling off all day. According to sources backstage who were there that night and who've spoken on condition of anonymity, he'd mentioned to a few people that his stomach wasn't right. He thought maybe it was something he ate, maybe it was nerves before a big match, maybe it was just one of those days where your body doesn't cooperate. In professional wrestling, you learn to work through pain, through injuries, through illness. The show must go on, it's drilled into you from day one. You don't call in sick. You don't tap out. You perform, no matter what. And that mentality, that warrior mindset that makes wrestlers some of the toughest performers on the planet, was about to become this man's worst enemy. The match itself was supposed to be a standard mid-card bout. Nothing too crazy, nothing too dangerous, just solid wrestling to keep the momentum going through the show. His opponent that night was known for his power moves, particularly his devastating powerbomb that had put away countless competitors. They'd run through the match layout earlier in the day, hit all their spots during rehearsal, and everything seemed fine. The wrestler felt he could get it out, get through the match, and then deal with whatever was bothering his stomach afterward. It was a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The match started normally enough. Lock up, some back and forth action, the crowd getting into it. Commentary was putting over both guys, building the drama, doing their job. And then came the moment they planned the big powerbomb spot that would transition into the finishing sequence. His opponent hoisted him up, and everything was going exactly as rehearsed. But then something happened that no amount of training, no amount of experience, no amount of preparation could have prevented. The impact of the powerbomb, the sudden compression of his torso, the force of landing, the way his entire body contracted on impact, it was the perfect storm of physics meeting biology. In that instant, his body made a decision his mind had no control over. And on live television, in high definition, with cameras capturing every angle, the unthinkable happened. The commentary team fell silent mid-sentence. The crowd's cheers turned to confused murmurs. And backstage, in the gorilla position where producers and executives monitor everything, absolute panic erupted. You could see it in the camera work immediately, the frantic cutting away, the desperate attempt to find any angle that didn't show what was happening. The cameramen, professionals who've shot thousands of matches, suddenly didn't know where to point their lenses. The referee, who's trained to handle injuries and emergencies, froze completely because this wasn't covered in any training manual. And the wrestler himself, lying there in the ring, felt the warmth spreading and knew with horrifying certainty that his career, his reputation, everything he'd worked for since he was a kid dreaming of being a wrestler, was potentially over in the most humiliating way imaginable. His opponent realized what happened almost immediately. You could see the recognition in his eyes, the moment of processing what he was witnessing. And to his credit, he made a split-second decision that showed the true brotherhood of wrestling. He immediately called for the finish, went into business for himself mode, and ended that match as quickly as humanly possible. He hit his finisher, went for the pin, and got both men out of there. No showboating, no playing to the crowd, just pure professionalism in the face of an unprecedented crisis. But here's where it gets even worse, and if you think you've heard the most disturbing part, you haven't. The wrestler had to roll out of the ring and make the longest walk of his life up that ramp with millions of people watching. Every step was agony. Not physical pain, but psychological torture. The ring announcer was still doing his job, announcing the winner, but his voice cracked slightly. You could hear that he knew something was terribly wrong. The commentary team attempted to fill the dead air with generic match analysis, but their voices sounded hollow, distracted, like they were reading from a script while their brains were processing something completely different. Social media exploded instantly. This was the era of smartphones, of Twitter, of Reddit, of instant communication. Screenshots were being shared before the wrestler even made it through the curtain. Memes were being created in real time. Wrestling forums crashed from the traffic. and WWE's social media team went into full damage control mode, deleting posts, blocking users, doing everything possible to contain what was rapidly becoming an unstoppable wildfire of viral content. Backstage was absolute chaos. Medical staff rushed to help, not with injury treatment but with the immediate practical needs of the situation. Production staff were already on the phone with legal, with USA Network executives, with everyone who needed to know that they had a massive crisis on their hands. And the wrestler himself was rushed to a private area, away from everyone, to deal with the immediate aftermath of what had happened. According to people who were there, he was in complete shock, not speaking, not making eye contact, just processing the magnitude of what had occurred. The locker room reaction was split. Some wrestlers immediately felt sympathy, understanding that this could happen to anyone, that the human body sometimes just fails you at the worst possible moment. Others, unfortunately, saw opportunity to make jokes, to establish dominance through humiliation, to participate in the toxic aspects of wrestling culture that still existed. Veterans in the locker room had to step in and shut down the mockery quickly, reminding everyone that today it was him, but tomorrow it could be any one of them. WWE's response was swift and calculated. Within hours, they'd contacted YouTube to have fan-uploaded clips removed. They issued copyright strikes against anyone who tried to share the footage. The official WWE YouTube channel uploaded a highlights package of the show that conspicuously edited around that entire match. On the WWE Network replay, they actually cut the match entirely and replaced it with a backstage segment. It was like they were trying to erase it from history, to make it so it never happened. But in the internet age, nothing truly disappears. The footage was already saved, already shared on platforms beyond WWE's control, already burned into the collective memory of wrestling fans worldwide. The wrestler himself didn't appear on television for weeks. WWE initially announced it as a personal leave, then as an injury storyline, anything to avoid addressing what really happened. Behind the scenes, there were serious discussions about his future with the company. Some executives wanted to release him immediately, believing the incident made him unmarketable. Others argued for standing by him, that accidents happen and fans would eventually move on. The wrestler himself reportedly wanted to quit, to walk away from the business entirely, unable to face the humiliation of returning. But here's what makes this story even more complex and fascinating: the human element that gets lost in all the jokes and the memes. This was someone's real life. This was a person who'd sacrificed everything for this business, who'd worked independent shows for $20 a night, who'd driven thousands of miles in beat-up cars, who'd destroyed his body for the entertainment of others. And in one uncontrollable moment, all of that dedication became a punchline. The psychological impact was devastating. According to friends close to him, he fell into a deep depression, questioning everything about his life and career. The incident also sparked serious conversations within WWE about performer health and safety. Medical staff began implementing more stringent health checks before matches. Wrestlers were encouraged to speak up about any illness without fear of being seen as weak or unreliable. There were discussions about having emergency protocols for situations that, while rare, could theoretically happen. Because the truth is, professional wrestling is performed by human beings with human bodies that sometimes malfunction in unpredictable ways. What's truly remarkable is what happened next. After weeks away, after countless conversations with WWE officials, after therapy sessions to deal with the trauma, the wrestler made a decision. He was coming back. Not quietly, not with some injury return angle that avoided the elephant in the room, but head-on. He cut a promo that WWE never aired but that leaked online anyway, where he addressed what happened directly. He talked about human dignity, about the difference between laughing at someone and laughing with them, about how every single person watching has had embarrassing moments in their lives. It was raw, it was real, and it was powerful. His return to television was handled carefully. WWE built it slowly, letting him work dark matches first, then house shows, gradually rebuilding his confidence in front of live crowds. And something unexpected happened: fans started to respect the hell out of him, not for what happened in that ring, but for how he handled it afterward. For not quitting, for not hiding, for facing the most humiliating moment of his career and choosing to keep going anyway. That takes a kind of courage that's different from taking chair shots or jumping off ladders. That's real bravery. The incident became a weird turning point in wrestling culture too. It opened up conversations about the physical toll of wrestling that go beyond the usual injury discussions. Wrestlers started talking more openly about the realities of performing, the toll on digestive systems from constant travel and irregular eating, the stress that manifests physically, the way pushing through illness can backfire catastrophically. It humanized these larger-than-life performers in a way that was uncomfortable but ultimately important. If you've made it this far in this story, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me your thoughts on how this situation was handled, whether by WWE or by the wrestling community. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about resilience in the face of absolute humiliation. Because this story matters beyond the shock value, beyond the memes, beyond the initial reaction. This is about what happens when everything goes wrong in the most public way possible and you have to decide whether to give up or keep fighting. The legacy of that night continues to this day. The wrestler eventually carved out a decent career for himself, never reaching main event status but earning respect as a solid worker and a consummate professional. The incident is still referenced occasionally in wrestling circles, but over time it's evolved from pure mockery to something more nuanced, a reminder that wrestlers are human, that live television is unforgiving, and that how you respond to disaster matters more than the disaster itself. WWE learned lessons about crisis management that they've applied to other situations since, and millions of fans witnessed something that they'll never forget, for better or worse. So the next time you're watching wrestling and something goes wrong, a botch, an injury, an unexpected moment, remember this story. Remember that behind every character, every persona, every larger-than-life wrestler, there's a real human being who bleeds, who feels pain, who experiences embarrassment, and who has to find the courage to keep going anyway. That's the real story here. Not the shock, not the spectacle, but the humanity underneath it all. And that's why we're here to tell these stories the way they deserve to be told, without the corporate sanitization, without the PR spin, just the raw truth. Subscribe if you want more of that, because we're just getting started.